Hey guys, two new pieces of information that I really want to talk about, and I think they're interesting enough to actually start a discussion over. One is pretty big is that Nintendo got their new president, which should be much more permanent than anything else. This is his name is Shintaro Furukawa, and he's going to be taking over for President Kimishima. And Kimishima wasn't supposed to be there for long. He was just there for to fill in. He's an interim president, and he was there for about what, a year and a half, 2 years. So they were looking for a new guy, and they found him. So Shintaro Furukawa, that's the new guy. I forgot his credentials. I read up on him when they first kind of announced it, but I didn't get to talk about it. But he's supposed to be pretty good. And he has like this whole 3-year plan laid out for Nintendo. So I think he did his homework. Kimishima is a pretty cool guy for what we've seen of him for the past 2 years. So I think it's gonna go pretty well. I guess he handpicked this guy. He showed him the ropes and everything. So I'm kind of confident about it. We have to see more about what he has to offer. But under Kimishima, I think we did really well. Right after Iwata had passed a few years ago. So it's I think Kimishima knows what he's doing. To pick this guy, to pick Furukawa. So that's something to consider, to get used to. I think he's 46 years old as opposed to Kimishima's 60 something, so he's a little younger. But maybe that'll help Nintendo figure out what to do. I guess have a kind of a new blood kind of guy, like someone that's more that knows what to do with this, with the products they're going to use. Hopefully, have some kind of plan on what they do with their older IPs and how to best use them. Because Nintendo is more about getting the their mobile platform going, mobile in terms of the cell phone games and whatnot. And Fire Emblem did really well. I think Animal Crossing's doing fairly okay. Pokemon's doing really well. Even though nobody really talks about it, it's still, until recently, it still got them a lot of money. So I think the future with Nintendo is really going to be using that mobile aspect. And besides that, another piece of information that came out that I want to talk about was actually what Furukawa said during a shareholders meeting. And I think this was today. If it's not today, it's yesterday. I believe it's today. He said they're going to be pursuing they're going to be thinking about what to do with the 3DS brand, in terms of a successor, really. So I wasn't expecting that personally. In my opinion, the Switch is kind of the successor to the 3DS, in my opinion. I know it's not a dual screen. I know it's not really using 3D. Definitely, it's not using dual screens. To me, this goes more back to something like how it used to be with the Game Boy Advance, that kind of thing. And it's doing really well for them. And I think that positioning that as a handheld in the future, I think now what they're doing is really good. They're positioning this as a home console that you can take on the go, but calling it a home console for now, I think will do well for them. And maybe in a couple years, say like this is a on the go kind of thing that can play home console graphics. So I think the Switch has it just has a lot of potential in it, and it really is, in my opinion, a really good replacement for the 3DS. It's such a big bump from the 3DS. It's a 720p screen and whatnot. The screen looks gorgeous. Everything. It's just a really good machine. So I didn't think there was really much of a need for a successor for the 3DS. I thought they were just going to do like a whole, next couple years, announce their new system, and not be strictly home console. And called the Switch the new handheld, and perhaps both systems will play off of each other, kind of how the rumors were for the NX that it will be two systems and they could play the same games. Which the Switch is, it kind of lives up to that, but maybe this would be an alternate route. That would be pretty good, especially since in the future, I think next year, 2019, they're getting the higher capacity SD cards, which would go up to 64 gigabytes. So third parties don't really want to use the 32 gigabytes. They'd rather go for the cheaper ones, but it will be available, next year. And as the years go on, it'll drop in price, so they'll be able to use the SD cards with the 64 gigabytes. So, the Switch to me has a really good life ahead of it, and possibly even longer than we think. But so someone asked during the shareholders meeting, what they're going to do with the 3DS, and if there's going to be a successor and whatnot. And they just said they're thinking about the possibilities with it. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I personally didn't like the 3DS. It's a fine system, but I just think that the software they produced for it was pretty not unappealing. I shouldn't say that. It was just just not my cup of tea personally. I felt like the games that got the highest scores, they just didn't feel up to the quality that I was used to. The ironic thing is that I really liked the DS. The DS was really good. I thought it was a really great system. But once the 3DS came around, it just felt everything felt kind of janky in a way. That's maybe I shouldn't mention it here, but it felt like the quality kind of it just felt the games felt old. I should say that. Something feels antiquated. It felt like I was playing a game from the early GameCube era. It just didn't feel. The games didn't feel right in my opinion. Maybe I was kind of not burnt out. Just not so satisfied with the Pokemon games, except for Moon, Sun and Moon. I thought those were really good, but I felt like they were things that are supposed to be standard, in modern gaming that really weren't. I felt like the things didn't load very quickly. It felt like games were slow. I don't know how to place it, but I felt like games were slow in a way that feels like they're older. It kind of made them feel aged. The graphics, of course, were of a handheld, but that part didn't bother me. It was the how I don't know. Maybe it's something going on with the processor, how it's used or whatnot. But I felt like the 3DS's software that produced over these years weren't to my liking. They really weren't. So I was a little disappointed. I'm a big Pokemon fan, so I got the Pokemon games, years later. And Sapphire and whatnot, they were my favorite back in the day, and the remakes came along, and I didn't think it was that great. If you never played them before, yeah, it's fine, it's great. But coming from a person that's played it before, played the originals, it kind of let me down. And X and Y I thought was a disaster. So I kind of chalked it up to them not being used to the 3D engine that they were using for the first time on these systems, and I felt like perhaps the 3DS was kind of a lot of developers who were just used to making games for the DS transitioning over to that 3D development didn't pan very, it just didn't do very well. So I have my hopes for the next, for the next 3DS, if there's going to be a next 3DS. And, maybe they got those kinks out, because I just, I didn't think that, for whatever reason, the 3DS games didn't appeal to me too much. Not too many. I do have things I like, to be fair. I did like the Ocarina of Time remake. I did like Sun and Moon. Bravely Default was fine. It was, it was just, it wasn't as many as I thought. And, I'm a big fan of the DS. But I've rambled on long enough. These are pretty exciting things. Nintendo's new president is something to look forward to. to see how that goes, how he runs the business. That's going to be something to definitely be keen on. And I hope there's not many delays. Fire Emblem's already delayed, and that's a problem for me. I was really expecting that for the fall, or this holiday season, and it's not coming out then. It's coming out in 2019. So I hope things go really well with this new guy, Kimishima. I thought he did really well for an interim president. The Switch did really well under him. All these things they did really well. So hopefully this guy keeps on that track. Keeps Nintendo's employees working, getting these release dates on time and whatnot. Because I think that's Nintendo's, that's their weakness, is getting these things out on time. And I hope that really continues. So until next time. Oh, also, the successor, of course. If they do anything with that, I don't know what they could do, but whatever they do with that, I hope that does well. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.